Company paid me for months after I'd quit since they didn't realise I didn't work there anymore. When I was in college, I worked for maybe 2 weeks at a clothing store that is well known for their ads with preppy, muscular college guys with no shirts on and pretty girl next door type girls. My roommate worked there, so I got a job as well. I've never worked somewhere that was as badly managed as this store. I showed up for my shifts the first week and nobody even knew I was supposed to be there or what I was supposed to be doing. They just told me to walk around and fold clothes and never train me on anything. My roommate and I would leave and shop in the mall. You had to wear their clothing to work there, and when I went to buy some clothes with my discount, the manager, another college girl, told me to just take it as that is what they all do. Now, I'm not someone who is comfortable with stealing, so I insisted on paying for my things, which seemingly annoyed the manager. I ended up just not going back to work after like a week or two as the place was such a train wreck. I kept receiving paychecks for weeks after I'd quit. I called corporate and tried to explain that I didn't actually work there anymore, but was still getting paid for my scheduled shifts. And they seemed just as confused as I was. The paychecks kept coming. I called multiple times as I was worried they would demand I had to pay the money back when they realised their mistake, and I was getting annoyed by having to keep calling. Someone in corporate told me to just keep them and he would fix the issue. They finally stopped coming after at least 2 months of free pay, and I never did have to pay the money back. Wow, 2 months free pay? That is lucky. Years later, I was married and received a letter from a lawyer in the mall in regards to a class action suit against the company I'd worked for all of a week or two, claiming, ironically, I was entitled to money for them not paying me enough. It had something to do with them requiring employees to wear their clothing, which was funny considering I knew those employees had been seeing the clothes anyway. I figured I might as well be included in the class action as I'd purchased quite a few pieces of their clothing for my very short time of working there. And to be honest, I was just amused by the whole thing at this point and wanted to see what would happen. I ended up getting a $100 gift card in the mail a while later after I'd forgotten about all of it. They calculated it based on how long I was paid for my employment there, not by how long I was actually employed there. I was like, man, this store really wants to keep paying me even years later. They just refuse to take the hint that I don't work here, lady. Well, that sounds like very good business to me. 2 weeks of work and you get paid for years. Well done to OP. I'm not robbing this house and I'm not a gardener either. This is my own house. We moved into a new house a few years ago. 2 days after we get settled in, it's a gorgeous day, so I'm out tending the garden. If you live in Louisiana, you'll realise that nice days are few and far between. It's hot and muggy. About 30 minutes after I start, this woman walks beside the house. She compliments my garden and asks how much my services cost. So I told her, Mom, I don't do services. About this time, my husband walks out and puts something into the car. So all's perfectly fine, right? No. This woman decides to call the police and tell them we are robbing the place. I don't know if her watching my husband caused that thinking as he was pulling stuff out of the house and into the vehicle or what. We were new neighbours, moved in like a few days prior, so you'd think she would have seen us moving. 3 cops show up a few minutes after she left. We didn't know she called the cops. They pull up while both of us are wondering what the heck just happened. Maybe someone we knew died or our kid got arrested. Neither. They said we were called in as an active burglar. We had to prove it was ours, our own house. She didn't even talk to us about it or mention the robbery. Although I guess in the moment she just lost it. People are crazy here. Armed guard mistaken for store employee. Lady gets arrested. So I work as an armed guard for an armed truck service. For those of you who don't know, we are responsible for picking up money and checks from other businesses, i.e. banks, stores, restaurants, etc. As part of my job is handling large amounts of cash, I carry a sidearm or handgun for those not into guns in order to protect myself and the money. Where I live, you have to have what's called a concealed carry permit to have such firearm outside of work hours, which I have. So I'm on my way home and have to stop at the store to pick up dinner for myself. The store I go to has employees that wear a blue polo and tan pants. My uniform is black pants and red polo with company name on it. And as I had just got off work, I still have my name badge on and sidearm in its holster on my hip. Cue crazy lady. I'm browsing the freezer aisle and she stops me and starts to ask where product Z is. She stops dead in her tracks as she sees my gun in its holster, stops talking and fast walks out of the aisle. I just assumed she realised I didn't work there and left to find someone who does. I go about my business and proceed up to the cashier line. As I'm waiting to get out to check out, in comes a swarm of about 8 police officers. They come straight to me with crazy lady behind shouting, "That's him! That's the guy with the gun!" They point their guns at me and order my hands up. I drop what I have and comply. I state that I work for Company Z and that I have a permit for my weapon. They lower and holster their guns after the commotion and apologise for the confusion, but said they got a call about a guy walking around the store waving a gun around. I say I'm sorry, but since I have been here, my gun has been holstered. Never left the holster. They turn to the lady and ask if it's true that I never took my gun out of the holster. She yells that I'm lying and that I can't have a gun in the store anyway. They of course go and check the security footage and see that I did nothing wrong and let me go on about my business and apologise again for the misunderstanding. They then turn around and handcuff the lady who called and told her she's being arrested for misusing the 911 system and inciting panic. Not sure this entirely belongs here and I am open to comments. Well, I for one think this definitely does belong in this subreddit. Karen accuses us of favouritism for an employee who isn't ours. This is more of an I don't work here lady I witnessed / intervened in. I used to work at a grocery store deli. I hated it. Midday one Saturday, it is absolutely mobbed. We are short-staffed and the line was overwhelming, so I'm doing my best to stay calm and focused. It doesn't help that I'm 5 foot, the counter is 4'5", and I literally have to wave to some customers for them to see I'm there, which is important. As I mentioned, there is a line, but a blonde Karen and her 2 offspring disregard it entirely. What a shock. Instead, the 3 of them are doing their darndest to interrupt every customer we beckon to the counter. Her son attempts to commandeer the order I'm currently taking, but I tell him to wait his turn. He steps behind the current customer impatiently. Meanwhile, Karen comes storming over to her son and says, "Oh, they'll help their own employees before they help me." I look over to the hot case and see my co-worker helping a lady in a red smock. The store uniform is red polos, and I recognise the customer as a clerk in the shopping mall's thrift store. Actually, I pipe up, my customer service cadence frayed and snippy, she doesn't work here. She works at the Christian thrift store across the parking lot. She was waiting before you. Karen jumps back and glares at me. Her son knew I was there, but she obviously didn't. I'm sick of them buzzing around, so I ask her what she wants. She doesn't say anything and storms off, hiding her shame with self-righteous anger in true Karen form. Later, the manager texted me to say she had complained. Joke's on her, I was dating the manager, so we only laughed about it. He also let me get away with throwing a corn dog at a guy in a Michael Vick jersey, bless him. Now, if you enjoyed that video, I've created a custom playlist of my very best Reddit stories that you can go and binge watch right now. So click on the screen and I'll see you over there in a second.